Cam Robinson of Elite Prospects joins us now. Cam, thanks so much for joining us. New background today. I like it. New bandana. It's good. I like it. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, fellas. Figured I'd mix it up a little bit for you here this week.
And Elias Pettersson mixed it up with Jonathan for Jonathan Lekkerimäki, because Lekkerimäki got hit there in one of those games. We're going to ask you a lot about those two prospects, because now, like the last time we talked to you, neither of those guys were in Abbotsford the last time we talked to you, but now they've both played in Abbotsford, and Lekkerimäki's already heading back for the World Championships. Again, we'll probably talk to you about that, but specifically his time in Abbotsford, what did you think of it for Jonathan Lekkerimäki?
Yeah, I didn't see all of his games. I saw a couple of them. I saw some highlights. I spoke to some people who saw some other games from him too. From what I saw, it was basically what he was doing for Orebro all season long. So he was obviously a great threat with that shot. He's really dangerous off of face-off wins where you can get the puck and he can release it really quickly with that hard, accurate shot. I think he's going to cause fits for AHL goaltenders when he does come over full time, with not only just like the power and precision that he has on it, but like the way he can time screens in the net front. He just has that goal scorer's mentality when he knows when to release a puck to maximize its chances of going through. He looked under strength, as we kind of expected to. You could see him kind of getting worn down by that physical AHL, the strength of that league. They're obviously, this isn't anything new, right? We know that the club wants him to build up some of his strength in the offseason. Originally at the World Juniors, when Patrick Relvin was talking about both those kids, and the plan was to bring Pettersson over right away when his season ended, and get his feet wet here, but let Lekkerimäki stay in Sweden to kind of build that strength and come over. Now they obviously changed that and brought him over, and he got himself 5 or 6 games here. I think that worked out well, because originally when they said it, I was like, oh, interesting, because it's like, when you're coming over from Sweden, I don't know about you guys, but whenever I go to Europe or come back, like I'm not thriving for a few days anyways, right? Like that jet lag, trying to get your sleep cycles back, and then to try to throw him into the mix at the AHL level before, the expectation was he was going to go back to Sweden as well to go try out for that World Championship team. But I think it worked out well. I think he got better as the games went along. He had that 5-shot game. He kind of leaves on a 2-game point streak there. I think it was a positive experience overall for Lekkerimäki, and now he can go back, play those 4 games against Finland, and I expect he'll be on that World Championship club, and that'll be another great little feather in his cap and some experience before he crosses over for good next year.
Cam, how does Vancouver's overall prospect pool sort of stack up or look relative to the rest of the league? Because I remember a year ago when the Canucks were obviously struggling with their main team, and I remember one of the big concerns was Lekkerimäki was having a down year. Willander wasn't in the pool yet, and you would look at their system and go, it's probably in the bottom third of the NHL. Yet fast forward to now, and both the main team is doing well. It's in its contention timeline, but also the farm system doesn't look half bad. How do you think the farm system as a whole compares to other NHL teams?
I mean, it certainly helps to add Willander, and he's a prospect with a lot of upside. Lekkerimäki having a bounce back season is massive. What Atu Ratti has been doing down the stretch here for them. Podkolzin, he was looking like is it gonna break right for him? Is he gonna end up back in the KHL one of these days, or is he gonna be kind of a bottom 6 guy long term? He's been really strong down the stretch too, with his physicality, his speed's looking better. Now I still would hesitate to say that they're top half of the league though, because it's just they don't have the depth of elite pieces, right? So they have basically those guys. I do like Elias Pettersson. I think that he's kind of a sneaky piece in their pipeline too, that he could be a top 4 guy. He could be a number 4 guy that could really help you out. So they do have, it's better than it was a year ago, and that's credit to some player development, whether that's in-house or just the players themselves taking steps. But yeah, and that's okay for a team. It worked out well that they are now in their contention window, because, a year ago, it did not look like that was going to be the case. It looked like they had a bottom 3rd prospect pool and they were a bottom 3rd team, and that's not ideal. So now they're looking to push in deep into a playoff run. And if you've got the 17th or 18th best prospect pool, then that's not the end of the world. That's actually fairly good.
Okay, Cam, I'm going to ask you a big picture question. Your draft philosophy for the Vancouver Canucks. What should the Vancouver Canucks be looking to do at the 2024 NHL entry draft? Because I'll tell you mine first, and I'm sure you have a much better one. But if you don't have any first, second round picks, draft the tallest right-handed kids you can and just see what happens. Like, that's kind of my philosophy. But what's yours?
I mean, I'm not mad about that. Like it's close to what my philosophy will be, and it's you want to come away with one NHLer would be ideal, right? Not drafting in the first or second round. You're like, if you can get one NHLer out of this crop, so maybe at some point you're looking at a player like that's an NHL skill. We can work with that. We can develop that, and then the rest swing on upside. Let's throw some darts. But I mean, yeah, sure, go ahead and get yourself a big rangy right shot defenseman or right hand center, even if it's like this guy might not be a player, but maybe he will down the road. And if he does, now you've got yourself one of those elusive assets that are so hard to come by. But yeah, all about upside when you're swinging at that point of the draft. I'm sure they're going to look to try to get one guy that's a good floor. We can work with that. Maybe that's a bottom six or a bottom pair defenseman. And then the rest, I would just be taking big old cuts.
Hell yeah.
Cam, I wanted to ask you about Macklin Celebrini because I've been watching a bunch of tape on him in preparation for a piece I'm doing for The Athletic. Celebrini, of course, from Vancouver, expected to be the #1 overall pick. And I'm kind of getting the feeling watching him that maybe he deserves a little bit more hype because you watch him and he's ridiculously talented offensively. He's a Hobey Baker finalist as a 17-year-old, doesn't turn 18 till June, I believe. And yet his defensive game reminds you of like Jonathan Toews. How special is Celebrini, and is he being underrated because there's been fatigue from all the hype that Connor Bedard got last year?
No, you nailed it. There is fatigue because of Bedard, because he was so tremendous and his numbers were so gaudy and his highlight tape, like the mixtape, was just ridiculous, right? And Celebrini, he's electric too, but he's not that type of player. But like you said, he has that Jonathan Toews-like two-way game to him. Like he's ferocious defensively too. Like on the back check, he battles hard and gets back on that back check, lifting sticks. He's hard in the corners. You don't want to run into him. He's a sturdy kid too. Like you said, at 17, youngest player ever nominated for the Hopi. As far as I'm concerned, he should win it and be the youngest player ever to win it. He's the best player in college hockey. He is by far the top pick in this draft, and I think he's like an automatic first-line center. Now, is he going to be Nate McKinnon? Is he going to push for 100 points year after year, 140 points like McKinnon's doing this year? That's where I hold back predicting that kind of level of offense from him. It might come, but he's not incredibly skilled in that regard, like those truly top 3-5 players in the world type of skill with offense. I think the entirety of his game, the well-roundedness of his game, is what's going to make him such a pillar for whatever franchise lands first overall. And like I said, he's going to be a star. He's going to be a first-line center. We'll just see if he's going to be like a super duper star.
Cam, who's the projected second overall pick?
There isn't one. That's
okay.
That's kind of the fun part of this draft. Yeah, it's wide open. There's 5 names you could probably put out there. Personally, for me, it's Ivan Demidov. The Russian kid he could be the most electric offensive player in this draft. Like he could end up being ahead of Celebrini with his skills.
Okay, so the reason I asked you that is because we have some listener questions, but this one's from a listener that always tries to pull a fast one on me, or has in the past, so I had to ask you before I asked the guy's name. But he asked how big of a gap there is between Celebrini and Demidov, the one you just said. Would it be totally outrageous for a team to go with that player at -- 1?
Yes, it would be totally outrageous. For a couple of reasons. It's like Demidov is great. He's electric. He's got great hands. He's, the skating is very projectable. The shot's good. Everything about his game is really exciting, but he is not a stalwart defensively. His birth certificate and the team he plays for right now and the club he's a part of adds all sorts of intrigue and stress to whatever team is looking at taking him. So, I expect that there will be a team in that top 5 that's going to be like, maybe we would take him at #2. But if he's sitting there at 8 or 9 or 10, I wouldn't be shocked just because of the birth certificate. And it's a funny class too, because there's a handful of really intriguing defensemen that could go right after Celebrini. And then there's also Caden Lindstrom, who's this like monster raw power center who could end up being, a true top line pivot as well with that size and that matchup and that unicorn status. So Demidov, he's going to be really interesting. If he goes 2, I wouldn't blink. If he goes 10, I wouldn't blink either. So he's definitely the wild card this year.
Kind of reminds me of Matt Michkov a little bit there. Am I onto something there?
Yeah, for sure. He doesn't have the 3 years left on his contract, so he's only got 1 more year. Now, the thing with Sky is the team that he plays for, St. Petersburg, is that they're gonna let go of like 4 or 5 or 6 forwards this offseason. So Mishkov's going to come back from Sochi. He's going to be playing a big role for them. The thing that they do, and I don't know if you guys remember this with Podkolzin, is that, when they're draft -1 guys, they see nothing. They see no ice. If they get called up, it's like a minute, 2 minutes, and then they're back down to the VHL or the MHL. And then in their draft year, sometimes they'll get a little bit more time. And I was surprised that Demidov didn't get more looks. He stayed in the MHL all season. He dominated. He's far too good for that level. Like, he's playing in the playoffs right now, and he's got over 2 points a game. Like, it's silly. But now he's on his last year of his deal. So I'm sure what's going to happen is they're going to start him out, and he's going to be getting like no minutes at the beginning of the season. Everyone's going to be like, great. Whoever drafted him, he's going to come over at the end of the year. He's going to hate playing at SCA. And then Christmas is going to come around. And all of a sudden, he's going to get some flashes in the power play. He's going to get some top 6 looks, and he's going to play a bigger part down the stretch. And then they're going to offer him a 5-year contract extension, just like they did with Podkolzin, like moments before he was drafted there a few years ago, is that they offered him that monster extension for a ton of money, and he shot it down. But we'll see what Demidov does. I've also heard some rumors that Putin is like, they're having like a meeting in like 3 weeks to potentially invoke a new rule with the KHL that their players stay till they're 25, even if they're drafted. Now, I don't know how they can enforce that, or if this is even true, but I'm just hearing that that is something that they're talking about. I believe they're calling it like the homeland rule or something like that. So, there's all sorts of stuff going on with Demidov and with Mishkov. Their scenarios are kind of up in the air, but pure talent alone, I'd also put Demidov slightly behind Mishkov.
Final thing, Cam, and it's we're gonna tie it back to the Canucks before we let you go here. The Canucks' recent practice of giving their junior prospects, Vilmer Allerson, Sawyer Minio, giving those guys some time in Abbotsford. What do you make of all that? Like, it seems to be something new that we're seeing with the team.
Yeah, it's something that they used to do a little bit more too, and other clubs will often do it. And it's kind of like a mini training camp, It's just giving these guys a glimpse of what the professional game is like, the speed, the physicality, the skill level up there, so that now they can go back in the summer and they can train with that in mind, right? When these guys get to a certain age in junior, I don't want to say it gets easy for them, but it certainly gets easier. And you don't want to have them take their foot off the gas. And so, especially for those kids that they have no real aspirations of making the NHL club the next year. So they need kind of that carrot, is what's the next step they need to get to. So I like it. I think it's smart for player development. And I have no idea if that's the Twins pushing for that, or who's kind of leaning on that more this time around. But I think it's a smart thing to do for organizations to get them in, even if they're black aces, right? They're just practicing, or you get them into a game, a few shifts here and there, and it's just valuable experience for them to go and then now hit the gym and see if they can't get their foot speed up or their physicality up to that level.
Cam, good stuff as always, man. Thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it. And we'll be sure to ask you for some updates on the Putin League. What's going on over there? Thanks, man.
No problem. I'll hit my Russian Connect, see what I can find out, eh?
There you go. There he is. Cam Robinson of Elite Prospects. You can go check out his work at Elite Prospects. Always fun having Cam on the show.
Yeah, I did not expect that. I mean, of course, he's not reporting it, but
yeah,
the fact that there are even rumblings that Putin may be looking at trying to get the KHL to force Russian players to stay until they're 25 is
it's a wrinkle.
Pretty wild.
Yeah. Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.